This is my house. It has a bedroom, it has a kitchen, a dining room, and a living room. It also has a complicated mechanical system. So I'm going to go through it step by step so you understand how it all works together. First, we have a ceiling fan. The ceiling fan is used in the living area to stir the air. Next, because my house is in Texas, it's essential that we have an air conditioner. The air conditioner returns warm air from the house and supplies cold air to the house. Here at the top of the stairs, we see the HVAC system. This is an air handler. It used to be a gas-fired furnace that was disconnected when we spray foamed the roof deck. But it's still used for the air conditioning. What's important to note, though, is that this is not part of the air quality management system. We also cook, and we cook with a gas cooktop. So it's essential that we exhaust those fumes out of the house. Here you can see them being exhausted through the roof. Here in the kitchen, we can see several important parts of the air quality management system. The first, of course, is the vent hood to the right with the ring in black. That vent hood is capable of extracting up to 800 CFM of air and does a good job when cooking. On the wall ahead, you can see actually two vents, one on the wall and one on the ceiling. The vent on the wall is not part of the air conditioning system. It's actually part of the air quality management system and supplies fresh air to this room. The vent on the ceiling is a normal part of the HVAC system, providing heating and cooling. Now we begin to add some pieces that are not as common. I have what's called a whole house fan set up. The whole house fan takes air from the living area and drives it through the roof outside. Here in the living room, we have a tall vaulted ceiling. At the top of that vault, there is a box. We call it the light box because it has 3 solar tunnels that bring a lot of daylighting into the middle of the house. We use this box, though, for another important purpose for the air quality management system. There's actually 2 things going on here. At both ends of the box, there's a vent that you can see. Those are connected to fans that exhaust air directly out of the roof of the house. So we take the highest point of the house and we pull that hot or stale air out of the house directly to the outside. The other vent you can see is in the middle, right behind the ceiling fan pole, and that vent is used as a return leg for the fresh air management system. In combination with the whole house fan is a fresh air / makeup air unit. What does that mean? Well, there's an inlet on the roof that allows us to pull in fresh air from the outside. That inlet is open when a door is in the closed position for recirculation and the open position for fresh air. And that fresh air is then supplied to the occupants of the house. But at this end of the system is the return, and here's that big return that we saw from the top of the living room. This giant pipe coming across here is the fresh air input. That's that 18-inch tube of air we saw over across the attic. Here you see a number of fixed duct lines, and those are also returns from different parts of the house. There's currently 5 zones tied into this system. Here we're inside the air quality management system. We're actually looking straight through to the back of the system, which is the return area. Right now, the doorway is closed to the outside, and the system is recirculating indoor air. When the computer controller calls for fresh air, a servo is triggered and that door is opened. So the doorway, the passage that we see to the right of this door, is the fresh air intake box. That's that 18-inch line of fresh air from the outside. This is occurring under several different circumstances. First of all, if the pressure in the house drops negative, the system will trigger and will open for fresh air and the fan will ramp up. Also, anytime we're exhausting air from the house proactively, either from the vent hood over the cooktop or from the whole house fans at the top of the light box in the living room, this door will switch to fresh air mode and fresh air will be brought in from the outside.
We also have a whole house dehumidifier, and it's hooked up right next to that fresh air unit. The whole house dehumidifier is also constantly pulling in fresh air, even when the fresh air unit is simply filtering the air. The fresh air is delivered the same way to the house. In this way, a small amount of fresh air is always being supplied to the occupants of the house.
Now behind the system, it's a little bit hard to see, but there's a box here that's kind of a beige color. That box is a whole house dehumidifier, and that dehumidifier is tied into this same system. So when my house has too high a level of humidity, even if the main air conditioner is not running, that dehumidifier will remove that humidity out of the air, and it's supplied throughout the house through these same 5 zones.
The last component is I have 3 air quality monitors. One is outside, and 2 of them are inside, one in the master bedroom and one in the main living area.
We're starting outside my house. I live in Richardson, Texas, which is part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It's a large metroplex, over 6 million people. And even though I live in a fairly urban area, my backyard is pretty dense and green. I'm next to a creek. We're lower in elevation than a lot of areas around me, and I have a lot of microclimate conditions. So when I need to decide, do I bring fresh air in, don't I, how much, and those sorts of things for my control system, it really would be helpful for me to know what's the actual air quality like right outside my house. It gives me a good position to evaluate temperature, humidity, particulate matter, etc. So what I've done is I've installed a shelter. Now this is similar to a cotton region shelter, which have been used for decades to do official temperature and other instrument measurements around the nation. This shelter is mounted right in my house. As you can see, it's mounted at roughly person height, and it protects the instruments from the weather, and but allows plenty of airflow. You can see there's air slats. Now if I open this up, you can see that I've wired power into it, and we have my indoor and outdoor air quality meter. This particular one is made by a company called IQ Air, and you can see that it's really just plugged in. There's no connection because it's Wi-Fi, so it communicates to the cloud and back to my internal server over Wi-Fi.
Let's go.
Right now we can see that it is 90 degrees, 74% humidity. We can see a CO2 rating. It's currently at 450 parts per million. And then the indicator on the left is 33 with the arrows pointing down. That correlates to AQI score. Nope, we're gonna edit that. The indicator on the left is the AQI score, Air Quality Institute score. Currently it's 38. You can see below it in small print 9 micrograms per cubic meter. That actually refers to the PM 2.5 rating and is a measure of the current air pollution in this particular area. We're here in the master bedroom. where we have an air quality monitor which allows us to measure the quality of the air, the temperature, the humidity, and the particulate matter, and most specifically the CO2 in real time while we're sleeping. We're here in the main living area of the house where we have the second air quality monitor. Now my living area is an open floor plan. It's connected to the dining room and the kitchen. One of the main sources of indoor air pollution in a home is cooking. So when we cook, even when we have the vent hood running and we have a very high quality vent hood, we see the 2.5s rise. The other thing that this part of the home lets us measure effectively is the general air quality. It's in a public space, there's a lot of room, and so we can get a good read on the CO2 and temperature of the main house.
All of those components work together to make my indoor air quality air management system. Now let's see some of the modes. The first is default mode. In default mode, I run the air conditioner. I run the dehumidifier. I run the fresh air makeup air in recirculation mode. Note that the door is closed to the fresh air and it's recirculating air from inside the house. And the whole house fan is normally off. It's only turned on by the Cat Tree Emporium's automated logic system when the CO2 gets too high. Now let's look at cooking mode. Note that the cooktop is running. And so, of course, the vent has been turned on and we're exhausting air out. Because of that, however, the fresh air system is automatically in makeup mode, and we're pulling in fresh air to replace the stale air that we're exhausting with the cooking vent. In exercise mode, I get really hot. So the first thing that happens is we're going to turn the air conditioning down to 72 degrees. People exercising generate a lot of CO2. So we're going to turn the whole house fan all the way on to level 10. We also need fresh air to make up for all of that air that we're exhausting out with the whole house fan. So the fresh air system is in fresh air mode on. And last, we need the ceiling fan on high to stir that air around and make us feel cool through evaporative cooling. Now I can do that plank. And lastly, my favorite, party mode. Similar to exercise mode, but we turn the whole house fan down to level 5 because it's a little noisy, and with all the people in the house, there's plenty of noise already. And lastly, what would a party be without cooking? So we got to have that cooking vent hood on as well. Thank you.